Yeah, good. We're live, Robin. You can go ahead.
Hey, ladies, welcome to Keep It Holy, sis. We're a Christ centered sisterhood bringing real talk, biblical truths, and encouragement to women in every stage of life. I'm Robin Hudson. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and I'm going to introduce my panel of ladies. If you ladies would let us know who you are, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Jackie Pugh.
Hey,
Hey,
Miss Jackie.
everybody. I'm Latoya.
Good evening,
Dana
everyone.
Davis.
I'm
Sorry, go
Marilyn
ahead.
Marshall.
Dana
Hey,
Davis
Marilyn.
here.
Hey, ladies. So, guess what? We have a very interesting subject this evening. Our subject is self care. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but that's something that I look forward to, ladies. Self care for me is a must. And I know that sometimes some of them feel like they don't have time for it or they don't really know what that looks like. So during this episode, we're going to get to talk through what we deal with as it pertains to self care and what some of the challenges are that some ladies may have with trying to get their self care in. Okay. So I just kind of want to throw a question out there to you ladies real quick. So, what comes to mind when you hear self care, and how has that changed for you?
Mm.
I mean, I'll go. So for me, self care is mind, body, and spirit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
literally, if I don't focus on my spirit, man, and for me, that looks like lots of prayer, lots of meditation, as well as reading God's word, literally, as much as I can, because that truly does set my mindset. And when my mind is right, it helps me with all the other things that I have to manage, which are quite a bit of things that my husband and I manage in our lives. So I have to start there, and then of course, working out is something that I have been doing for years. But the older I've got, the harder it's gotten. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
work out pretty regularly, but not as much as I used to. And I think I need to slow down anyway because I'm 50 plus, but I feel like I'm just not getting anywhere sometimes. But yeah, I still feel pretty good. And then of course, um, like I said, mind, body, and spirit. So just trying to guard my heart and my mind. I know that's all biblically and churchy, but for me, I like to do some reading. I like to do the things that I love. So I have some activities that my husband and I we like to get a good movie in and travel and do other things. So that's what self-care looks like, for me personally.
Mhm. I want
Okay.
to pivot off what Dana is saying. As a personal trainer, so I mentor not just myself but other women, and I've done it 30 plus years. One of the things I always say to my clients is first God, then you, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
else comes after that. And that's one of my things I tell them all the time, because my thing is that one of the things women have a habit of doing is always, doing for everyone else, and they will quickly put themselves on the back burner. And
Mm-hmm.
even for me, I've always is I thank God for wisdom, because I've always known that. At one point, I was a single mother with three kids with a corporate career. And one of the things I realized is that in order for me to be good for them, I'm going to have to take care of myself. So I can remember telling my kids, all right, guys, mom's going to the gym. I need for y'all to do this and this. I always took care of myself, even younger. And now, as I've gotten older, and by the way, Dana, age is nothing but a number.
Thank
So
you.
Amen.
we ain't focusing. Age is nothing but a number. So
We'll have another
my
episode on that.
yeah, well my I'm hey, for you 50 plus, I'm 60 plus. So I feel better now let me just go and say at 65 than I did at 35. That's the craziest thing. I say that to Jackie all the time. I'm like, guys, how do I feel better now at 65 than I did at 35? I was raising
Beautiful.
kids. I was raising kids. That's what that was. When you're tired, you're putting that energy into them and just raising kids. And so now that I'm in a stage in my life to where my kids are adults, it's hey, I'm taking care of me and I'm taking care of me well.
No, that's right.
So
Yeah.
that's how I look at self care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen.
So I will say what comes to mind is peacefulness. That's what comes to mind for me. I know look a little younger, but it's nothing but a number. But I feel you when you said, Marilyn, look, you put all that energy in your kids. I've been at 30, I'm about to be 35 this year in that club, and I am tired, okay? I'm tired. So we'll have another episode on that too.
Yes.
But self-care when it comes to mind, just out of the blue is just peacefulness is what I think about.
I think for
Okay.
me, I think about what fills your bucket. So I
Mhm.
feel like we all are constantly pouring out of ourselves in our jobs, with our kids, with our in our marriages. We're just constantly giving out in all these situations, and it depletes our buckets. So there are things that are unique to each of us that fill us, that kind of renew us, that cause us to feel like, okay, I can get up and go another day. And
Mhm.
so when I think about self-care, I think about spending time doing those things that renew you, that make you just, that
Mhm.
re-energize you. And sometimes it's just quiet time for some
Yes.
people. I
Mhm.
remember when I had a house of five little kids, and I didn't look at this as self-care back then, but now looking back on it, it was. I would have to get up early in the morning to be able to spend time with the Lord. I would put
Mhm.
an exercise video on the TV. Do you guys remember Denise Austin?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I would put, I think she was on cable then. I would put her
Uh-huh.
on and I would do my little workout, or I'd go in my backyard and walk laps around the backyard, all before it was time for them to get up. And and that was really self-care. I was just thinking that's how I just start my day, but it was what I needed to be able to pour into myself before they were up and they got all the rest of whatever it is I had left. But that's what I think about, Robin, when I think about self-care.
Okay, that's awesome. Though the one thing that stood out for me, and each of you kind of hit on that a little bit, is that you have your own personal thing or your own personal regimen. And that brings me to a verse, 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20. Do you not know that your bodies are the temples where the Holy Spirit resides? And, caring for our bodies, that honors God. And
Mhm.
so your spirituality has to be included in that. And so whatever that looks like for you is what you have to do. And I feel like there are ladies who don't understand the connection of all three of those because
Mhm.
once again, once you put God first,
Mhm.
it's going to provide you with the peace that you
Mhm.
need throughout the day because you've
Right.
already set the tone, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that that might be an area where some ladies need to kind of hone in a little bit more and
Mhm.
understand what that first step of self-care look like. Okay, that brings me to another talking point. Now, a lot of ladies feel guilty for trying to take time out from being a mom or being a wife, or they work in corporate America and they feel like, well, people are depending on me, because I have to do A, B, C, and D. And if I stop to take care of myself, then that's going to fall apart and shatter or break
Mhm.
or whatever. And my question is, why do women feel guilty for just resting? Why do you ladies think that that is? Why do you think they feel guilty? What is that?
I wonder if it's kind of generational. I grew up with a mother who worked and
Mhm.
kept the house clean and kept herself beautiful. And I don't know how she did all that, but she really never took a day off, unless it was a holiday. She was never sick. And so I think that for my generation, that was our model. That was my model.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I would really kind of feel guilty, if I was trying to not do anything. I would feel like, gosh, there's stuff to be done. And I think that I just modeled that after my mother, who she was just always doing
Mhm.
things. But looking back now too, I think that she also invested in herself in that she didn't go get her nails done, but she did her nails. And she didn't
Mhm.
go get her hair done, but she did her hair. And so
Mhm.
I'm thinking that that could have really been her own source of self-care. That's what she did. That's what she enjoyed doing. And she had hobbies. She sewed, and that's what she enjoyed doing. But I kind of wonder if maybe it's generational. You know, some of us grew up with mothers who seemed like they were able to do it all. And so we feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing as well.
Mhm.
Latoya, can I have you? I want to hear your standpoint on that because we do have age gaps here. And I do
Yeah.
know that the generations are a little different. And so I want to hear your perspective of that question. Why do women
I'm
feel
gonna
guilty for
say,
resting?
I know I'm a unicorn, okay, in my generation. I'm just joking. But as far as I don't really know what that is about. And yes, it can be generationally, but there were so many things that I think came at my age group, the millennials, by the way. So we were in an era where we were coming out of like, regular phones where it was like a cord, right? Or we had cordless phones. You had a cordless phone, you were doing real good, right? But then there was the age of technology too that came where there were cell phones that were happening. So we were able to get so many things thrown at us, I will say, at one time that it wasn't like we were really, I want to say this for me, I guess, paying attention, if that makes sense. Paying
Okay.
attention to our mothers and all that they were doing until we were
Mm,
thrust in the midst of it. It wasn't like,
mm,
oh, mom, I'm watching your every single day. I'm just kind of like going on about my day. But what I could say is one of my good friends, she was saying as far as guilt or self-care for her was making sure everybody else around her was okay. And
Mhm.
that to her made her feel good. So when she wasn't doing that, it made her feel some sense of guilt. Me
mm,
personally, that's not where I felt it. I was just like, maybe
mm,
I'm just, selfish and don't really know don't really know it. Because
mm,
that did not, I don't feel that way. Um, until somebody brings something to my attention, because again, the not paying attention part is just like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that, or, not doing this or that for you. So experiencing guilt in that way, as far as making sure everybody's okay or not, or taking time for myself and feeling bad, it really wasn't a thing, if that makes sense.
That's an interesting point. And I'm saying that because I have noticed the younger generation, they don't really feel guilty for a lot of things. They're a little bit more
Mhm.
selfish. I'm just going to be honest. They are a little bit
Yeah.
more selfish than we
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
And I feel like
yeah.
there are so many things missing when it comes to when the ladies become women, okay?
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
they are trying to establish their homes, when they're trying to
Mhm.
get married. There are so many missing pieces.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel like it's because the foundation, not that the foundation was not present, but like what you just said, Latoya,
Not paying
y'all had
attention.
better things to do. You were
Mhm.
doing this and doing that
Oh,
over here and
Yeah.
over there to where that was not an important thing for you.
Mm,
So
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
reason why I wanted to ask, what your
Mhm.
thought process,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And
that.
I take full
mm,
accountability for not paying attention. So that's something too. We millennials, y'all, we can't be blaming our parents because we didn't pay attention. That don't mean they didn't tell us. Okay.
Right,
So that right,
right,
And
right.
I'm
there,
kind of a
we just didn't pay attention.
generation. I'm kind of a generation ahead of you guys, and so and talking to my oldest son, that's where I can see what he saw because he must have been paying attention because one of the things he cooks, he cleans, he
Mhm.
he does stuff that he saw me do as a single mother, and so and I taught them to do all that stuff. But one of the things he's finding, he's talking about these young women. He's single,
Oof.
and he's talking about these young women. He's like, "Mom," he goes, "Why would I marry someone that don't know how to cook? Always want to eat out. You look cute." He said, but hey, what I'm gonna cook and I'm gonna clean. He said, but we got to be in this together. He said, these women, he said, they're not wired like that. He said, you have, well, and he actually said, he said, you have ruined me. Because he
Now
said,
you made him a good
I-
man. That's
I'm
what-
saying, you look at, he said, I'm busy looking for that woman that's going to be able to do that. He said, now here I am. I got a great career. I'm ready to build a family. I'm ready to do all this, but I can't find a woman that want to. He said, I said, well, he said, one of the things I started looking, he said, at older women. He
Yeah.
said, because he said the older women seem, he said, these millennials, he said, I don't know. He said, I'm confused and I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Not too much on us. Not too much on us.
Yeah. They believe in self-care. Right?
Yeah,
They
they
gonna
believe
get
in
their
self-care.
nails
Yeah,
done. They gonna get
he
their
really
hair
does. He
done.
thinks they're selfish, and he's very he kind of old school. He's so old school. He wants to, spend time at home and cook and do this stuff. He said, and he said, talk about they want to go to a club. He's like, I'm too old for that.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a different. I think the self care comes from the different generations. Because I've always believed in self care. I've always believed in my naps. My kids say I cursed them with a pre-existing sleep gene because I even raised them like that. I raised them to listen, rest your body, lay down, let's take a nap. When we get up, then we'll do the activity. So I'm like, on the weekends, I say, all right, this is the agenda. And the nap would be in the agenda. They would automatically, oh, it's nap time, y'all, let's go, and so, because we're going to get up and do this and this after, so it was hilarious. So now they all like taking naps. And even my son-in-laws, they said, yeah, they were tricked into that because they said that they started taking naps with my kids, as they, got married. It's hilarious. So we love naps.
That's so
And
funny.
regenerating, as we used to call it. We got to regenerate. Let's go take a nap.
That's good though. Dana, what you got for us?
Self-care physically, growing up in Los Angeles, it's a vanity city. We always took care of our nails and hair growing up. Plus my grandmother was a cosmetologist and my mother went to school. So that had a lot to do with it. She kind of made her way. So I always had the hair did, as they say. But I think later on when I had kids and money started getting a little funny and you had to budget, I still found a way, kind of what Jackie was saying, to, do the aesthetics on the outside, take care of myself. So, I think I was thinking about what Toya said. And I said, I think it was when I got older that I realized, let me make sure I'm working on that inner person, right? Because when I was younger, I used to, be quick with my mouth. Someone got on my nerve, I would snap. I would go off. I had a little, quick little, some would call it an attitude issue. So I was like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna have any friends here in a minute if I keep doing that. So I didn't realize when I got older, I was like, I need to take care of that inner. Of course, I didn't know it was church and your spirit, man, but I just started doing better things. I hadn't really gone to church then. So I kind of, it reversed. So I never had an issue with taking, and then again, the fashion and all that stuff, I came from that. So I was more interested on, all that stuff is fake, who are you really on the inside? So I kind of, mine was a little reversed, I realized you can dress the outside up, but they're important, men, especially if you're married, men are oftentimes visual, so, having that great, a good balance of it is what, you try to do without being vain. What's the beauty is fading. So you realize you're not going to be fine forever, but, you try to work with the little hair, I'm trying to work with these little thin little pieces now, still keep them together. So, but yeah. So I had to work on that spirit, man. So as my hair is thinning out, I won't get too stressed out.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Because you know what that also tells me, Dana, is that some women struggle because of burnout and emotional fatigue. Okay. You have the single mom. She has, let's just say she got 5 children and she's trying to do the best that she can because she is mama, she's going to work, she's coming home, she's cooking, and she might have an older child and she's like, okay, everything is done. I'm gonna take a little nap and then I gotta go back to work because she gotta make ends meet, okay? And come home in the morning, get the kids ready for school, send them off, go to sleep, and she does it all over again. And you think about the wife who is at home and she's not working and she's doing all of the duties at the house, the cleaning, the cooking, the daycare, taking the kids to all the sports activities and all of the events or whatever. And that can be emotionally draining. And
Yeah,
once
yeah.
again, you feel like if I don't do it, the ball is going to drop. Okay. But as you continue to do that, ladies, you can put yourself in a position to where you are burnt out. What in the world does that look like for you, ladies? What do you do? If you feel like you are getting to a place of burnout, what does that look like for you and how do you handle it?
One of the things I always do, I joke with my husband, and he'll come into the house, and he's been at work, and he'll come into the house, and I won't have any TV or any lights on, and I'm just sitting in my recliner, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm focusing on my nothing box." And he goes, "What?" The first time I said it, I said, "My nothing box." And he goes, "So what does that mean?" And I said, "I'm focusing on nothing. I'm just at peace with the quiet. I'm at peace with what's on I'm not running around with anything in my mind. I said, I think this is a gift. This is a talent. It's a talent to have a nothing box. Have you ever just been able to just think about absolutely nothing? Just sit in quiet and peace and just, and then all of a sudden you hear it's like something speaks to you. Have you ever, I don't know if you guys have ever done that to where all of a sudden a person will come to mind, and it's like from being just quiet and still and just doing nothing, just sitting there, and all of a sudden somebody will come to my mind, and it might be somebody I hadn't talked to for years, and then or either somebody that's going through something. It's happened a couple of times with my best friend, and then afterwards I'll call her, and she's like, "Why do you always call me when something is going on?"
Mm,
Mm.
And it's almost like God was like, "All right, call her."
yeah.
And that quiet time, that peace, that nothing box is amazing.
I like that. Nothing box.
I've
Yeah.
never heard of a nothing box. That's
But sometimes you
interesting.
got to get quiet before the Lord like that for him to be able to
Mhm.
speak to you. Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah, because you think about
Absolutely.
all the chaos, all the stuff that goes on. You think about even when you're praying. Have you ever just noticed just stuff is going in your
Mhm.
mind, and you just because I'll be on my knees praying, and then I'll be done, and then I'll stand, and I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot to do this, and I'll get back down there and pray, start to pray all over again. I've done it several times. It's like, oh my God, I said I forgot to pray about this, and it's because there's so much that we got a lot to pray about, especially if you have children, grandchildren. I have
Amen.
great grandchildren now. I've got a ton of stuff to pray about constantly. So when I can just have some quiet peace, it's amazing to me.
Yeah. And I think when you aren't doing things, when you aren't doing any type of self-care, or like I was saying earlier, feeding your bucket with things that
Hmm.
you enjoy, you're moving towards burnout,
Hmm.
because you can only go so long with
Yeah.
just pouring out and pouring out, and
Mhm.
before you just get so totally exhausted. And
Mm.
burnout, stress presents itself different in different
Yes.
people. For
Yep.
some people, that leads to depression. For others, it leads to physical illnesses for
Mhm.
people. So, yeah, it's just so important to recognize your own signs of burnout,
Yes.
and be able to put the necessary things in place, um, to curtail you from moving in that direction.
Hmm.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of different people in different lifestyles or different, generations represented, and some can't do something. But when I was young, I learned real quick to put a little savings away for cleaning the house to get someone to come in every 2 to 3 weeks, because that took too much of my time up. And I don't, I know people have different budgets. Some people can do that, but I wanted to be able to use my allocated time. I look at time like money. You only get so
Hmm.
much of it. And I
Hmm.
wanted to be able to use my time for the things that was most important, which was investing in my children, investing in my husband. And then when we started a business, doing those things. So cleaning the house, because I can be a little bit picky, would take a long time. So I was like, I told my husband, he's like, okay, let's move some dollars around here. And we're still with the same lady. She's been with us like now 20 years.
Mhm. That's
But
good.
yeah, we trust her. She's with us when we move houses. But but long story short, she comes over and she just knows, my preferences and stuff like that. So that just frees up so much time, if you can do it. Again, I know people have different budgets. And then, of course, when we couldn't afford to get on a plane and go somewhere with 3 children, we got in a car, took some road trips, and just to go see the beauty that's out there. Some people, everybody says, some people say, oh, I'm okay just staying in the city. But I tell you what, it's something about seeing the breadth and beauty of God tangibly in his creations all over the world. I just say, okay, do your thing here. But, just even locally, there's some beautiful places right here in Texas that you can roll through in the mountains and see some, some water, even if it's a man-made lake. So those are things tangibly, in addition to, obviously, I know we've talked about prayer, but just practically and then sometimes it's getting around people, and just having a conversation, laughing, talking. I love to laugh when people like to laugh, when I'm focused, I can't switch, and people are like, oh, Dana, are you okay? Because I will focus, but when I'm decompressing, I love laughter, and get around people who have a sense of humor
Yes.
and
Yes.
who can really have a good time. So that too is self-care for
Yes, it is.
me personally, the
Yeah, it
tangible.
is. Yeah, it is. And so just going to kind of what Jackie was saying as far as how burnout can physically present itself. So for people who don't know about signs and things, you can just really run until you just can't anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people, or I was. Let me say that I was one of those people. So I have experienced being a single mother before. And I was going to school at the same time. So with my kids and going to school at the same time, of course, I had to work to feed them, right? So, and I was having tension headaches. So that's how it presents for me. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, I don't know, like, what's going on, whatever. And so she was like, well, how often do you sleep? I was like, sleep? Like, I don't know, I get a couple of hours here and there. So I never really slept. So that's when I started doing 15-minute naps. So I take 15-minute naps, power naps is what we call them. And I know some people body is different. They may not be able to do that, but 15-minute naps for me help me to make sure that I am okay. That's part of my self-care as an example. So as far as knowing the signs, when, where, and how, I just had to sleep. And I don't know, I was like, I don't feel like I can sleep because I got to do everything. So I wasn't sleeping, but you never really know until somebody brings it to your attention. Like, okay, well, what are you eating? Are you drinking? Are you hydrated with water, electrolytes? Have you been eating okay? So it's like, you're not putting all of the pieces to the puzzle together because you are doing life. But as I've grown a little older and a little wiser, I'm learning to be preventive, be more proactive instead of reactive. Like, okay, this weekend, I'm gonna have a few hours where I'm just not doing anything. I'm gonna have a bubble bath once a week, just, kind of doing my own things that give me, fill my cup. Like you said, comedy, laughing. Me and my husband, we love watching funny movies. Like that is just something that just, fills my cup. It's just, makes you feel good. So I don't know. You have to find what works for you and what works best for you. And also to Dana's point, whenever you were saying finding, money to put aside to make sure that you had time to do certain things, like if it was working on a business or investing time in your family, I think that is the most beautiful thing. And a lot of people don't know to do that, but I learned that in business. So whenever I started doing entrepreneurship, I was like, okay, well, I have to put my time into what actually, makes money instead of what I'm spending time doing, right? So I was spending time doing. So I didn't think about it in terms of, family, but that is so true. Like you have to find a way to invest in what's going to fill your cup, whatever is going to work best for you or have a return on your, interest. So anyway, just my little tidbits.
I think
That's good.
when you have young kids too, connecting with other moms of tots and, being able to take your kids over there and get a little break, take her kids and give her a little break. Just that community with other mothers who have children in your season of life gives you an opportunity to kind of recoup.
Okay.
And
Back on
yeah.
my millennials again. You
Mhm.
have to be the village too.
Mm,
They
That's
don't
good.
create it. We don't build it. I will say that. That is such an
yeah,
awesome thing to have,
yeah,
but and
it's not Girls' Generation.
Yeah, because
and not
I
only
think about how when I made most of my friends, they were at church, and I
Mhm.
worked in the kids ministry. I probably spent close to um, 13, 14 years, working in the kids ministry as my kids moved into different sections of the church. And I met some amazing women, and we're still friends to this day. And
yeah.
I think it's so different now because they don't build community like that.
We
And
don't. Yeah, we don't do it. And I know a lot of us, and it's all up in the air too, because we are variety. Like I had my
Mhm,
babies 16 to 19. Now my
mhm,
friends got kids and my babies can babysit their kids. So it's
right.
like, it's like, okay, that is all going on too. So it's a lot, but I think that, to Jackie's point, like that is respite care. That is
Yeah.
self-care to have a friend be like, girl, look, I got these kids over here and I need to take a nap. Can you help me? And like,
Yeah.
can you do something or y'all do trade-offs? I
Mhm,
think that would have been the dream back
Yeah.
in the day when my
mhm,
babies were young. But
Hmm.
did you hear
But I
that?
think a lot of that has to do with the social media aspect because people have this perception that there's I mean, social media can do all kind of harm, right? Even to those who are, you have friends, but the mental health, as we're talking about self-care, of looking at social media. But the
Yeah.
other side is, as you guys are talking about the friendships, it isolates, and it
Hmm.
creates this perspective that, okay, I see what so-and-so's doing, where they've been, what they're doing, so you have to be intentional, I think. And I just, want to just kind of make it personal. This week we had the ice storm, and he had a family member over. She's elderly, and she has not invested in those relationships or that community. So when
Yeah.
you have not invested, you're depending upon, where's so and so, I don't want to be by myself, or you don't have anybody to call, you don't have anything to do because you're not investing in your hobbies or your interests or community relationships. So
Mm.
it can,
Yeah.
and if you're not married with no, kids have their own lives and their own, kids and whatever they're doing, it can be, telling if
mhm,
you're not. So it could go both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
I know for me, and I'm just going to say this really quick so we can move forward, but being able to create healthy boundaries.
Mm,
Okay. I think that that is something that a lot of ladies have to learn and understand that it's healthy to do that. God gave us permission to create healthy boundaries in love, um, guarding your heart. You have to do that to guard your heart because when people see that you have some free time, they want to decide how you need to spend your time
mm.
because they think that you don't have anything to do. And I know for me, I was doing it to myself because I had a hard time saying no, especially to my family and friends. And I had to stop it though, because I was getting to the point where I would make my own personal plans and their plans would override the plans that I had already made for myself. And then I would just
Mm.
push my plans to the side to please them because I didn't want anybody to be mad at me or
Mm.
upset
Mhm.
because they're depending on me to do something.
Mhm.
And the Lord said, girl, if you say no, I promise you they're going to call the next person
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah.
So don't think that you're the only person in the world who's able to do whatever task it is that they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to create healthy boundaries with my family and my friends. And guess what, ladies? When you say no, you can say no. You don't owe anybody an explanation
It's a
and be
Mhm.
complete
okay with
sentence.
that. It is a
Yeah.
complete sentence, no, with a period.
Are you
That's
doing that
it.
little sign that do? I don't know what that means. Am I doing something bad there?
No.
No, I
Oh,
think
that's like
that's a clap,
That's
clap.
what you're
yes,
doing.
that's like
You
a
know, like
clap.
clap, clap,
Yes,
clap. I'm
Yes.
just gonna do it with
yes,
you. Clap, clap.
yes, yes. That's what that means. And
Let's say,
you know,
learn to say no.
absolutely learn to say no, and it
Yeah.
is okay, and you will be just fine. Um, Mark 6:31 says, "Come to me, all who are, come to me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." God has given us permission to do it. He's telling us that we have to do it. What do we do on Sundays, ladies? He creates the Sabbath day. And in the word, it tells us what we're not supposed to be doing on that day. But
Yeah.
we're doing everything that the word tells us not to do on the Sabbath day. And he said, cook your food on Saturday, okay? Do all your laundry, do all your chores. So when you come and you worship and you're in the house with all of your community of church members, and when you leave, you can go home and kick your feet
Rest.
back, rest, and prepare yourself for the upcoming week. Rest your mind, body, and spirit, and
Hmm.
spend some quality time with your family.
Hmm.
And I honestly believe that this little snow stuff that was going on is God is always intentional. He doesn't do anything by mistake. And
Hmm.
it was so needed. And I don't know how many
Yeah.
people I talked to who said, oh my goodness gracious, this was the best break,
Yeah.
that we needed. And there
Yeah.
was some self-care involved in this week because you got to just sit down and just be still.
Yeah.
So let me ask you ladies, because we don't have a lot of time left. Let me ask you one other question so we don't kind of go over. What boundaries have you created to give you peace, especially with your families and your friend?
Well,
What boundaries have you created to give you peace?
So what you've created is learning to say no, but what I'm really trying to work on is not feeling bad about it when you know there's a need,
Mhm.
with people or the community or whatever it may be. When you see it's a need and you're trying to help them, and it can be a tangible need, but you're trying, you want to be a helper. God says he blesses you so that you can be a blessing, or that's what our blessings are for. And so it's creating that boundary of saying no, because you can't be a person's savior. So discernment is kind of like all of those things for me: discernment, alignment with the Lord, to be able to truly know that my no is aligned with him. And I'm not just saying no because I don't, I can't, because I don't believe everything always comes easy. I don't, too much is given, much is required. So I don't think, I don't personally, he's, I think Galatians 6:9, when he says, do not get weary well done. I think weariness is part of sometimes what comes with what he's giving you to manage, whatever that may be. So I don't walk around with rose-colored glasses believing I'm gonna always just be soft and soft. But that being said, if I'm aligned with him, then when it's time to, I hate that word grind, me personally, like grind, grind sound like you just like, whoo, like what? But I like the word grind, me personally. But out for the sake of, I can't think of another word. Sometimes you gotta grind, right? Sometimes
Hustle. Got to get
Mhm.
to it.
you got to get to it. But for the most part, they're learning to say no so that my grind would be aligned with his aligned grind.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I get that.
I think for me with my daughter, she has my youngest child. She has three boys, my grandsons, and I love them to death, and she knows I love them to death. And so, one of the things she said to me one time, she goes, she was always saying, "Mom, could you watch the boys? We're gonna do this and this, this," and I would say yes. And then so one day I discovered, I said, let me just let her know. I said, do me a favor. I said, ask me first if I have something to do. Just ask me. I said, and then let me look at my calendar and I will let you know if I'm available. I said, they have two grandmothers. I said, so, just
Mhm.
don't try to depend on me to do it all. And so she's
Mhm.
like, well, Mom, you're so good with them. She feels like they're too aggressive. And so, we like for you to watch it more. And then she goes, and Whitney, anyway, this is what's a trip. She goes, anyway, what you got to do? All you doing is going to church and going to work. What you got to do?
I twiddle my thumbs.
I'm minding
That's
my
my
business.
I said, do be minding my
My
business. That's what I got to do. And she always got something smart. What you got to do? You don't do nothing but go to church and go to work.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
said, you don't know what I'm doing. I said, so
Yeah,
you ask me about my calendar the next time you want me to watch your children. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. That is
They
so
make you feel
funny.
obligated because you're the
Right,
grandmother.
right. Yeah, because I can
Yeah,
remember
Grand.
the first
Marilyn, because
time
that guilt. That's what I'm talking
I
about. That's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
the first time I turned my son down as far as with watching my older two grandchildren, this is what he said to me. He goes, wait a minute, you defaulting on your weekend? I don't have a weekend. What are you talking about? On your your like I had them.
You're not in the custody agreement, huh?
He said you defaulting on your custody agreement. You. I'm like, listen to yourself. These are not my children. These are my grandchildren.
That part. That is funny. My mom was tough. I will say that. My mom was like, you had a baby, you ain't lost your mind, right? So it's your child. You figure that out. I'm here if you absolutely have no other option, but don't be calling me. No, yes, your baby. That is your, here you go. Your baby. That's yours. But as far as I'm in alignment with that too. As far as feeling guilty when saying no, definitely do say no. But then learning to, I don't know if y'all do this, if y'all have this, y'all might need to give me some tips. When you see somebody calling you, you kind of know what the conversation is going to be about. So you be like, oh, let me try to just, have the energy for this. But I'm learning I don't have capacity sometimes for certain conversations. So I'm going to screen that call, but I still
Yeah.
feel bad because I feel needed. Like, I feel like you need me.
Yeah.
Then on another side of it, I'm a very resourceful person. So I could do a lot of things, but I be saying yes to much stuff. So I'd be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. And then it just be like, of course, for your family who want the hookup,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, well, what about this, this, and that, or that, and this? And of course, you're not about to pay me for this. So I'm not even going to prioritize this, right? But not feel bad about it. Because I can say no, but I'll feel bad about it. That's where I'm at. I'm just like, dang, they might have really needed that. I don't know. So I am kind of in that realm of things as well.
I
You'll
don't
grow
know.
out.
I don't know
You'll
if there's
grow
a
out of it.
I'll grow
Mhm.
out of it. Thank you, Marilyn.
Oh, so Marilyn's good. She's grown out of it. Like I
Yeah.
said, each situation is different. It depends on the need and the capacity. Am I
Mhm.
going to, learn
Mhm.
to be able? Am I going to be able to prioritize and do it?
Yeah.
Without
Right.
dropping all the balls. I
Yeah.
have to kind of assess it and go through it and see, which is a big growing, point for me, because I used to feel like, no, you can do it all, but
Mhm.
and when I
But
say
no one
that,
can do it all. But I just be like, okay, that whole, and I think it is, a lot to do with discerning too, just knowing like when there really is a need that requires me, right? When there really is a need that does absolutely require me. And that's what I'm trying to learn, to really just discern,
Mhm.
like, Lord, do you really want me here? Because,
I mean, because
really?
at the end of the day, you don't want to do it all. I don't want to
Hey,
do it all. I'm at an age now where I don't want to do it all.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I just don't. I'm in that place. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no,
I
and
think
then
that's
want to do it
let me
all.
classify what all that I think are things that made the list just to get to all, if that makes sense. The working out, quiet time, spending time with the husband. He may be tapping your shoulder. I mean, let's keep it. There is something. Yeah, I know I ain't going. He tapping your shoulder. The kids want something.
We all married. We all married.
Right, but I'm just saying, when you go down those lists, the first thing is you don't want to tell your husband, no, you can't tell your kids, though. So I'm talking about the things that kind of have to make that list all, where it's like, okay, now you didn't got down. Is there anything left for me? Or is there anything left for that friend who I haven't talked to in 3 months? So these aren't things that I'm just like, oh, just trying to, you know,
Mhm.
add to my plate necessarily. They're the things that sometimes I think they kind of should be somewhere in the priority list, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mhm.
And I think I messed up, we probably all, well, let me speak for myself, with the scripture where it says we can do all things through Christ Jesus. I think I finally got that.
Oh,
That was the, as my husband said, that was the fugazi. I can do all things. It was, That's that alignment. That's that alignment again. Like, hey, I gotta pray for. He gonna tell me.
Yeah.
But in my mind, originally, I was like, you tell your kids, or at least I was, you can do all things through Christ. These poor folks, they got their own work, the tithes.
And they
They
think that.
Mhm.
they got
Mhm.
That's right.
they're so
Man.
sweet for the weary, But anyway, anyway.
Sister Jackie, we got one last question. I want to pose this question to you, if it's okay. What would you tell a woman who feels she doesn't deserve rest?
Mm.
Mm. Well, I think I'd take her to the scriptures. I'd
Okay.
let her know how much God loves her. I'd
Okay.
let her know that He created her for special purpose. I'd
Okay.
let her know that she's doing a great job in that purpose. Then I would show her how the Lord Jesus Himself worked hard
Mm.
and how He rested. He pulled away from all of
Mhm.
the activities and got by Himself and rested and prayed and sat with His
Mhm.
Father on multiple occasions. So He sets the example for us. So I think that's where I would go with a woman who's dealing with not
That's good.
understanding the importance of rest.
Okay, that's awesome. That is, you hit that right on the target. Yes. So, ladies, I know we are at our time, and I just want to say something really quick. Ladies, please find something, one small act this week to give yourself some type of self-care, whatever that looks like for you. Don't ignore it. Give yourself some some self-care this week. And just remember, lady, you are valued, you are
Yes.
loved, and you are
Yes.
worthy. Okay.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
All right, ladies, till next time, you ladies be blessed.
All right, keep it holy.
Keep it holy.
Keep it holy.